Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, the tech that played a huge role in rebuilding Notre Dame after that awful fire in 2019.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Those images of the flames are seared into our memories.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the story of what happened after, the rebuilding, that's where things get really interesting.
It's amazing how when we think about rebuilding something like Notre Dame, something so old and complex, we picture, this traditional methods.
Yeah.
But in this case, cutting-edge technology was key,
Ah,
absolutely essential.
I know, right? It wasn't just about chisels and mortar this time. We're talking lasers, algorithms,
Right.
and this revolutionary concept called the digital twin.
Yeah, so before the fire, Autodesk and this company called AGP, they teamed up to create this super detailed digital replica of the cathedral using laser scans. We're talking billions of data points. I mean, every nook and cranny, every gargoyle, every archway, all captured. And then they used AI to transform this massive data set into a usable 3D model, like an interactive blueprint.
So imagine a complete virtual Notre Dame, down to the tiniest detail. That's incredible. This wasn't just some fancy 3D model.
Yeah.
It was a working blueprint
Yeah.
that engineers could actually interact with. I mean, test in ways that were never possible before.
Yeah.
This technology is it's like stepping into the future of architecture.
It really is. This digital twin, it wasn't just for show. It became this powerful tool
Yikes.
that let engineers simulate the whole construction process, They could test the stability of different structures, even see how light would interact with the rebuilt spaces, and all this digitally before even setting foot on the actual construction site.
So they essentially built Notre Dame in the virtual world first.
Exactly. That's a big reason why they were able to meet President Macron's goal of a 5-year reconstruction timeline. It's amazing when you think about it. 5 years to rebuild Notre Dame.
Yeah. A structure that originally took centuries to build.
Right? It seemed impossible.
5 years. I remember thinking, that's crazy.
It was ambitious, for sure. But that's where this digital model, it just changed everything. Nicholas Mangan, he's the VP at Autodesk, he said it had to be finished in 2024, and by using these technologies, we were able to save months, even tens of months. Just imagine, months, years even, shaved off the project simply by being able to problem solve and plan in the digital world.
It's incredible. It wasn't just about rebuilding with bricks and mortar. It was about rebuilding with data, with algorithms as partners. And I imagine creating this digital twin was... well, it was a huge task in itself, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was massive.
Billions of data points to capture, process, make sense of, all while racing against the clock to meet that deadline.
Yeah, the urgency of the project, that was a huge challenge. They were under immense pressure to collect and process all that data quickly. The reconstruction needed to start as soon as possible.
Right, of course. But what about the technical challenges? What were some of the hurdles there?
Well, first, just the sheer amount of data. We're talking billions of data points from those laser scans.
Wow.
Just storing, managing all that information was a challenge. They needed powerful servers, sophisticated software to process it all.
I bet. Anything else?
And then the complexity of processing all that data. Trying to stitch together billions of individual data points into a coherent 3D image.
Oh, yeah.
It was like solving this giant 3D jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
They had to develop these specialized algorithms and techniques just to make sense of all that information.
So it wasn't just about collecting data, but turning it into something meaningful, something they could actually use for the reconstruction.
Exactly. And on top of all that, there were data security concerns.
Oh, right, of course.
With so much sensitive information, they didn't want to risk storing it in the cloud, where it could be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So they did all the processing on-site, which required a huge investment in infrastructure.
That's understandable. Data security is a big deal, especially when you're dealing with something as iconic as Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this wasn't a one-person job.
Oh, definitely not. This project needed expertise from all sorts of disciplines.
Oh, yeah.
Architects, engineers, historians, computer scientists. They all had to work together, share their knowledge. It was really a team effort to make this digital twin happen.
A true collaboration. Different fields, skill sets, all focused on this one goal.
Exactly. And there was the constant challenge of accuracy, making sure they captured every detail of the cathedral, from the grand arches to the smallest carvings, with millimeter precision. It was incredibly meticulous.
It sounds like it. Essentially trying to digitally recreate one of the most complex and historically significant buildings in the world.
They were, and they did a remarkable job. This digital twin, it became the foundation for the whole reconstruction effort, allowed for a level of planning and precision that wouldn't have been possible with just the traditional methods.
It's amazing how something as destructive as a fire could lead to such a groundbreaking use of technology. It's like Notre Dame's legacy now includes this whole new chapter on digital preservation and innovation. But this technology,
Yeah.
it has implications far beyond just Notre Dame, right?
Absolutely. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll explore how this technology is being used for other historical preservation projects around the world. Welcome back to our deep dive. When we left off, we were talking about the Notre Dame digital twin and how it revolutionized the rebuilding process. But you're right, this tech has implications that go way beyond Notre Dame.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about.
It is.
This whole new toolkit we have for preserving history.
Yeah, and we're already seeing it being used in some really fascinating ways. Take the ancient city of Palmyra in Syria.
Oh, right.
It suffered so much damage during the conflict there.
I remember those images. Just heartbreaking. Such a tragic loss.
It was devastating. But thankfully, Palmyra had also been laser scanned before the worst of the destruction. So even though parts of the physical site are gone, we still have this digital memory, a blueprint that could be used for future restoration.
It's like a backup copy,
Yeah.
a digital safety net, even in the face of conflict.
Exactly. And it's not just these big projects like Palmyra. Think about the war in Ukraine.
Right.
Ukrainians have been using smartphones to scan cultural landmarks under threat.
Wow.
It's a way of documenting and safeguarding their heritage.
It's a powerful example of how accessible this technology is becoming.
It is. It highlights how fragile cultural heritage is.
Yeah.
Conflict, natural disasters, time. They can all threaten the places that connect us to our past.
Absolutely.
But this tech, this ability to create these digital replicas, it gives us a way to preserve these treasures.
It makes you wonder how many other sites around the world could benefit from this.
Oh, countless. Countless examples. They're using digital scanning in Italy to document and monitor the Leaning Tower of Pisa, helping ensure its stability. And in Egypt, archaeologists are using it to create virtual tours of ancient tombs.
Oh, wow. So people can experience these incredible places without actually disturbing them.
Exactly.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
It is.
Not just for preservation, but for education and exploration.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to visit any historical site you want, virtually, from home.
It's amazing.
But I do have a question. Isn't there a risk that we become too reliant on these digital tools? What about the traditional craftsmanship, the knowledge that's been passed down for generations? Do we lose that?
That's a great point. And it's important to remember that this tech isn't meant to replace those traditional skills.
Okay.
It's meant to enhance them, to give architects and builders new tools, to preserve that knowledge and make their work even more precise.
So it's more of a partnership, the old and the new, human expertise and technological innovation.
Exactly. Think of it this way. A master stonemason wouldn't abandon their chisel and hammer just because they have a laser cutter now, right?
Sure.
They'd use both, choosing the best tool for the job. And they might even use that laser cutter to create intricate templates that can guide their handwork.
Makes sense. It's about finding that balance between tradition and technology.
Exactly. And that balance is so important when we're talking about historical preservation. We want to restore these buildings to their former glory, but we also want to respect the original materials, the techniques used to create them. And digital tools can help us do both.
Okay.
By giving us a deeper understanding of how these buildings were constructed, how they've evolved over time.
So it's not just recreating the look of a building. It's about understanding its history, its essence.
Precisely. And that's where the human element is still so crucial. These digital tools give us data,
Right.
but it takes human judgment, expertise to interpret that data, to make decisions about what to preserve, what to restore, and how to do it in a way that honors the building's legacy.
So in a way, these digital tools, they're helping us become better stewards of our cultural heritage.
I think so. They give us a new perspective on the past, and they empower us to preserve these treasures.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting time to be working in this field.
It really is. But like with any powerful technology, there are potential downsides.
Absolutely.
What about the ethics? Are there concerns about authenticity or even misuse?
Those are great questions. And that leads us to a really important conversation about responsible innovation, which we'll dive into in part 3 of this deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've seen the incredible role of technology in Notre Dame's reconstruction. and the implications for preserving cultural heritage worldwide. But with such power, we have to consider the ethical side, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. We need to be asking ourselves, what are the potential downsides? How do we use this tech responsibly, ethically?
It's like we have this amazing toolbox, but now figuring out how to use those tools properly. So what are some specific ethical concerns about this tech in historical preservation?
Well, one of the big ones is authenticity. When we recreate parts of a historic structure based on a digital model, are we truly preserving the original? Or are we making something new, a high-tech copy?
Right. Where's that line between restoration and just replicating something?
That's a huge debate in conservation. Some say any reconstruction, even with traditional methods, involves interpretation. Others feel the original materials are essential to its authenticity.
It's
It
complex.
really gets to the core of what preservation means.
It sounds like that balance is key. Embrace the possibilities, but respect the value of the original materials and methods.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the physical, too. We have to think about the cultural significance, how tech might change how we understand, experience these sites.
Yeah.
Like if you can visit a perfect virtual reality Notre Dame, does that somehow make the real thing less special?
That's a good question. Does it change our whole relationship with history? Are we more detached from the real world by getting immersed in these digital ones?
It's something to be mindful of. Tech can be great for education, engagement,
Sure.
but we can't let it replace the firsthand experience of actually being in those places, standing in a space that's centuries old, touching those stones. That feeling is irreplaceable.
I totally agree. There's a certain magic to being physically present. So it's not just the tech itself, but how we use it, finding ways to integrate it without losing that human connection.
Yes, and that brings up access. Who has access to this tech? Who benefits? There's a risk that digital preservation becomes a thing only for wealthy institutions, individuals, leaving behind communities that have been marginalized or lack resources.
Right, that's important. They shouldn't be widening the gap. It should be democratizing access to knowledge.
Exactly. We need these advancements to benefit all of humanity.
So how do we make sure these ethical concerns stay front and center as the tech keeps evolving?
We need open discussions. Everyone involved, architects, historians, conservationists, tech people, policymakers, and importantly, the communities whose heritage this is.
A collaborative approach.
Absolutely. We need guidelines, best practices that put authenticity, cultural values, and equal access first. Plus, investment in education, training, so future generations use this tech responsibly. And of course, legal frameworks to deal with things like intellectual property rights.
That's a lot to think about, but it's clear that this tech could completely change how we preserve and interact with our history. We have to use it wisely.
Well said. Notre Dame's reconstruction, it's more than just a building. It's about tradition and innovation, human ingenuity. And as we go forward, it reminds us that preserving heritage isn't just about the past. It's about shaping a future where history and technology can work together.
It really is fascinating. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Notre Dame and the future of preservation. It's given us all a lot to consider. We hope you'll keep exploring these ideas with us in future episodes. Thanks for listening.